It's your professionalism that I respect.
Hi, Chris. Good morning.
Stephanie, good morning to you. How are you? Happy Thursday to you.
Happy Thursday to you as well. I'm going to just be really transparent. I have a dad joke today, and I'm not even going to try and work it into the conversation. I'm just going to tell it. Okay?
Okay, let's
All right.
hear it.
So this really bossy guy walks into a bar and orders everyone around. I heard the laugh. I heard the little.
I chuckled. There was a chuckle. There was
It was a
dad
chortle. It was a
joke.
chortle.
It was a chortle. I have a joke today about procrastination. I don't know. Let's talk to you later.
Procrastination comes from fear, right? But I think it kind of just comes from being really effing tired. Speaking from someone in perimenopause. That's what I'll say. All right, Chris, what if hiring your first sales rep is the move that kills your pipeline? Ben Orenstein ran Tupple's sales calls personally for years, refusing to hire reps until usage made the founder bottleneck obvious. That stubbornness, not the product, was the moat. Today on How to Founder, we're going to be talking about founder-led sales and why hiring a rep too early can cost you some of your best deals. I am your host, Stephanie Hayes. With me today is my humorous co-host, Chris Franks.
And we size speaks volumes.
We have a guest today, which we haven't had in a while. Joel Miller has run the Sky Floor for 17 years without a VC, retaining clients for years, not months, and now ships a portfolio of 7 niche SaaS products. Joel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let's dive in. We are talking today about founder-led sales. What changed for you when you stopped hiring salespeople and started doing the selling yourself?
I mean, I think the biggest thing with that is that you're able to have the prospecting call and bring a level of authority and empathy and sort of curiosity that a lot of times sales reps don't internalize. And so you don't get the output you need, the discovery you need from that potential client in order to actually meet and discover and unearth their need. And so, yeah, I mean, there's really something, I think, to bringing my own experience to those conversations that, it's really hard to replicate in a hire.
And I would argue that there's also a whole lot of learning that you do in those sales,
Yes.
at least those early sales conversations, right?
Right. Oh yeah. It's all about learning, right? That's what, I mean, I think curious is the best word for it. I go into those, I'm not pitching or selling at all in the first conversation. I'm just trying to discover who the client is and unearth some of the layers that they didn't even show up ready to share. If I can ask a great question, ask a secondary question, and then shut up and let them sit in that silence and then say something. So often they'll reveal something that maybe they didn't even realize. And that's going to help us come to a better outcome and output for them.
And then is there a shadow side to that too, where, a founder's got so much pressure on them to close the deal and be move things forward that they don't go through the process? Because, we both know that listening and having conversations is really good for sales, right? So what kind of advice do you give them to be able to, play the longer game?
Sure. I mean, I think it really depends on how you're able to manage your time, right? Time management is the biggest thing there. We I don't say yes to a lot of starting conversations unless there's some key ingredients that are already present. And I can feel those out typically through the email exchange so that I'm not just getting on endless pointless calls. Typically, if I'm getting on the call to ask those questions and to go through that discovery, I'm 85% sure that they're a client fit, and now I'm just trying to fill in that 15% and also display my value to them. And it's interesting because if I get them to talk 60 to 75% of the conversation, I seem more valuable to them than if I sit there just giving my standard spiel.
I wish more people would hear that because it's a game changer in sales. Chris, you've been a founder, you are a CEO. When did you first hire a sales rep, and was it the right choice?
Never. It's never. I mean, I don't know. The reason I'm bold is because I had to manage salespeople, Stephanie. I'm actually 27 years old. I don't, I look older than I am. It's the problem. I think that this highlights is two things. Is number one is I think we can agree that the founder has to go sell, right? They have to do that. You have to because you have to be the people that are in front of your customer. And this is a less obvious thing in 26 and beyond. But when you can spin up a brand overnight and you can, AI is driving like 85+% of marketing right now. Meeting the founder and hearing their why and hearing what inspired them to take this risk is just such a hugely valuable thing and will close more sales. Hiring salespeople, you cannot replicate that. Right. And so you try to bring in salespeople too early because there's this gap. You're busy and you want to go build product or stuff like that. But ultimately, it's so hard to transition to a salesperson. And as I mentioned before, salespeople are terrible to manage. They're the worst. They're the worst people to manage on the planet. And I'd say that lovingly, salespeople. You're terrible. You're awful.
I'm curious. I mean, what are some of the things that pop out in your head when you think of how awful the salespeople are? I have some in my brain, but I want to hear what's coming to your mind when you say that.
I mean, the CRM, like these are the worst documenters of anything in human history. It's interesting. I haven't hired a salesperson since we've been able to do just, AI driven meeting notes just use that to make the CRM. But, hey, I went out and had 5 sales calls this week. It's like, oh, that's amazing. I'm so happy. Log into the CRM, there'd be like one word. Cool.
Right.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah. I could build a whole proposal off that for sure. Yeah.
Right. Can I move this up in the pipeline? Can I not? I don't know. Was there actually discovery? Anything like that. So horrible documenters, very charismatic people that tend to use that charisma to try to bullshit me about whether or not they're actually doing the work that they are actually doing. I love salespeople. It's going to sound like I hate you guys. I don't.
So this is an interesting piece to explore because there's a lot of founders who will, they want to get this off their plate as soon as possible, and so they'll rush to hire a salesperson. Right. But when is it the right move to start building a sales team? And also, I want to talk a little bit about this this is like your traditional view of salespeople. They're charismatic, and there's a reason that they're good at sales is because they are charismatic. Because my business partner is a dyed-in-the-wool salesperson, and she teaches people how to do sales, right? And right now we're just in the throes of starting up our private equity fund, and she's the one who's going to be out selling, right? She's the one who's going to find the clinics that we want to acquire. And then she is also the person who's going to be out leading the charge in terms of looking for LPs. And so we need to work in a way that is friction-free for her. And as much as I want the systems and the whatevers, when she's in her flow and she's doing her best work, it's not like mired in some process and systems and what have you. So there is some wisdom in being able to figure out how to get what you need out of a salesperson and allow them to do their best work. So back to my original question, Joel, like when
Yeah.
is it the right move to start building a sales team? And is there a business model where it works better?
I think when you have done the work, and codify might not be the right word, but you've done the work to actually understand your sales system. And by that, I don't mean, that you just read one book and adopted how it talks about it. I mean, like, what makes, to Chris's point, like what makes the human part of what you're bringing to those sales conversations unique for your business. So then you have to take, I think, the strengths of that founder-led sales model and be able to actually communicate it and impart it upon your sales team. So like, I wouldn't necessarily go, I think about that more from not what's the inflection point, but like, if you need a sales team to grow and scale to where you want what success looks like for you, please don't do that until you have a way to pass on your version of how to actually communicate with the client effectively. And that, it's going to be like a trial and error process, but if you can maintain some of that ethos, that's going to be a differentiator instead of just having an army of people out there trying to be charismatic, and maybe they're just glorified used car salesmen. We don't want that.
Chris, how do you respond to that?
It's dead right. It's what popped into my head, Joel, was when the product is about to sell itself, like when
Right.
it's close.
Yeah, right.
And the challenge is that if you think about your role as a founder, and you're the person who's come in and helped, like in your case, Stephanie, you really found the private equity fund. You have a level of technical expertise, you have a level of market expertise, you have a level of hopefully empathy and EQ, whereby you can ask those good questions, like you were saying, Joel. Oftentimes, you're going to have to replace yourself with 3 different people.
Right.
In that, you might need a technical salesperson, you might need somebody who's better at getting doors open, et cetera. And so it really is that moment where you're ready to scale a system, in my opinion. Also, I've been proven wrong hundreds of times. I know people that have had a great salesperson early in the company, and it's been a huge differentiator for them as a company. But I just, in the seat that I sit in, I think that doing it yourself, even if you're not comfortable doing it, is so valuable, because it's going to give you, the founder, so much more real information about what it is that you're actually selling.
Yeah, and maybe this is like the sort of highlights a little bit of what I'm saying, but also an issue out there. And maybe some people need a sales team to get over this, but I can think of a few times where our agency has been, a partner in delivery, I would say, with another agency. So I'm on an initial call we're all there, we're all present, but the other agency, the owner has 10 years more experience. They were the initial contact, so I let them lead the call. And at the end of it, that ends, and I get on the phone with them, and I have to do some business therapy, some business coaching, and be like, because I'm watching them, and I don't want to step on their toes, right? Because it would be kind of rude in this scenario, but I'm watching them completely miss the forest for the trees. They're focused on, how can I tack on that next $5,000 output? And they're missing a $50,000 problem that they're not answering because they just looked right by it. They're so focused on the way they typically do it. And I have to push them. So that I don't know that person might do better with a salesperson who's good, but they're also not going to hire a good sales team sometimes because they don't even know how to do it yet themselves.
I want to ask you a question, Stephanie. What do you think about when you hear the word, BD or salesperson? So I think it's fundamentally changed since when we were coming up.
Yeah, I think this also really depends on what you're selling, right? When we had our consulting company, we actually fired all of our salespeople and we just did consultative sales because we were selling high ticket, specialized, expert services, right? And those clients, they were also not dummies, and they wanted to speak to somebody who actually knew what they were talking about. And we found there was total misalignment with the salespeople who had come in, and they were just driven. And I think that's where we have this experience with salespeople, is that we're asking them to meet numbers. And so they do everything in their power to make that number. And that's all they're thinking about. Whereas if we incented them to build relationships or what have you, then maybe we'd have a different experience. But I can see that being different for a different type of business model, or if you're selling a different type of thing, something much more, productized. Does that make sense? Like, is that your experience too?
I think so too. Joel, what do you think? Like, what do you think the modern salesperson is versus the salesperson we all have in mind?
Yeah, right. I mean, I view myself in that role, right? It's part of my job is being a salesperson. And so when I think of it, I think consultative is a great word. When I'm advising our clients who have sales teams, because we've done sales enablement training for some of our clients, to apply some of my knowledge to them, consultative is actually the first thing I lean on, which is like, you're not selling anything, you're helping people, right? And so if you don't understand that, you're going to fundamentally, one, you're not going to be a good salesperson, and you're going to handicap yourself because you're not going to offer the solutions that are actually the most valuable to the client. You'll be a little scared to do that a lot of times, or you'll be a scammer. So like, if you don't want to be either of those things. So if you can view the sales process as helping someone because you're meeting their need, it's going to be innately human and empathetic in a way that the guy with the bad sports coat at the dealership, not to harp on the car dealers, I'm sorry, but that's who we think of a lot, right? What can I do to get you into a car today? You can avoid being that
what
person.
pops into our head.
Right, totally. And it shouldn't be a dirty word. It should be another way of saying we help our clients get to where they want to go.
In their car.
Sometimes.
I used to say, and I think my vision is changing, which is, so I teach part-time at University of Colorado System. And I used to think that a good salesperson was a great teacher. And I don't think that's true anymore, because when I go teach, I just basically sit and talk to my students for an hour and a half. It's great therapy for me. They have to listen to me. They're paid. Nobody else in my life really listens, so it's just great. They have to take notes. I think that my opinion is changing, that it's now much more about being a coach. And it's coaches, in my mind, ask questions to help you come to decisions. And I think that that's now much more. We live in a world where I can find as much information about your product or service as you have available. I mean, if you go shop for a car, I have more specs that I've written down than you probably have in your head. So what is that role? It's now somebody to help somebody make good decisions. I don't know, Stephanie, did I get us off track?
So now what I'm hearing from you and thinking is that maybe instead of investing all of our resources into building a sales team, we actually want to do better at the customer education before they even start to have a sales conversation. I don't know, Joel, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. That's kind of a little bit of what I'm getting at with that. I when I'm booking that first call, even though it's the first time we're going to talk, I'm 80%, 85% sure that they're a potential client for us. And I do that and there's so many ways to do it. Podcasting is a way to do it, right? You can build a parasocial relationship, for a lack of a better way to put it, with a potential client. They should understand a little bit about who you are up front before they ever even walk in the door. I mean, if someone doesn't do that work, and you can kind of tell they're just out there, it's one of 5 calls, I don't know, that's a pass for me, because you're not going to understand, how could I even price myself with value to them if they don't understand what makes me different from the next guy. And so, like, one other thing I love to do in those first calls is to test that and see if I can talk them out of hiring us by saying, why do you need to do this? Why now? Why us? And if they have no clue, then it's like, well, you don't know anything about me. Like, I don't know. I don't even know why we're talking right now. If they do know something about us, they'll actually end up selling themselves a little bit on us as well, because now they have to start to defend the reason that they're talking to me to begin with. And so then I get to turn them into the salesperson sometimes, which I love.
What do you do with a founder who genuinely, like, I come from the tech industry, and let me tell you that there are some founders who are founders because they were very smart.
Right.
And if you know very smart technical people, they can sometimes be very on the periphery in terms of social skills. And so what do we do with founders who genuinely should not be in front of a customer?
I mean, that is a great question. I think that's probably a key moment, right, for a sales team. Now the question becomes, how does that founder, who probably doesn't even know what they're looking for, hire a good team? I actually don't know the answer to that. Like, hopefully they have someone else in their sphere, or they already have advisors that can help them.
But I think like
through
when
that
we come back
process.
to
Yeah.
the assertion that every
Right.
founder should be selling, I would actually
Yeah,
argue
yeah.
that maybe they shouldn't. Like we were we were acquired by another company, and the founder, like every time he would talk to a customer, they would be like, "We're out." No. So
Yeah.
like, Chris, have you had this experience? Like, I know coming from the tech industry that I've seen this many times, and it's not that uncommon. And there are also founders who are just like, I can't do, like, I genuinely am not the right person to be speaking to customers. So
Right.
do we have an alternative for them? How do they play a role in business development and that learning loop if they can't be in front of customers?
I'm gonna go a little bit different, but I'm gonna quote an old set of data, and I'm not sure if it's still true, but the old set of data said a single founder is the least likely person to build a successful startup. Two founders are twice as likely to build a successful startup. Three founders in a founding team actually is the highest likelihood of success long term. It drops when you get to four. So three is somewhere between 2 and 3, and that really depends on the personality. And so the challenge here is that we're saying, okay, if you're a single founder and you're a person that is highly technical and really, and I mean this with love in my heart, but really doesn't like talking to humans, loves coding or building product or building AI or whatever else, you probably need to find other people at the co-founder level. Now, that doesn't mean that we all have to be equal partners. I can be the person who's spent the most time, the most money, the most energy, but I'm going to bring in people that I'm going to be considered to be co-founders as leaders within the company that I think can go do that. Now, that's a way harder thing than just hiring a salesperson, et cetera. But my answer is that yes, you can go hire those roles, but boy, it's a very hard role. And particularly for a very effective salesperson who's probably making a lot of money someplace else, you have to give them a very compelling reason. And that compelling reason typically is equity. And so find people that balance your skill sets. I mean, Stephanie, I know you and I, my classic joke about engineers is, how do you tell an introverted engineer from an extroverted engineer? Introverted engineers stare at their shoes when they're talking to you. An extroverted engineer stares at your shoes when they're talking to you.
But I would just, as a tangential aside, I would say it's not always just like the nerdy tech guys, which, trust me, there are lots of those.
Right.
But I've seen like women who are in service, like coaching services, who should not talk to a client, right? They're amazing coaches, but they are they like, for lots of different reasons, and there could be some mindset shit in there that is blocking them and blah blah blah. Regardless, yes, there are these guys do exist. And so how do we create that learning loop that is so critical and so important? Like, who's the right partner for these guys? And Chris, it just occurred to me there's a whole new service offering out there to be fractional co-founders.
That's a good idea.
But like that learning loop to me is the most, because Joel, you and I were just talking before we got on the show,
right? And
we were saying, being on podcasts isn't necessarily about promoting ourselves. It's actually like verbalizing all the things we're working on. It's a great way to progress those ideas and to synthesize our own thinking. So how do we get that learning loop to happen for the founders who just really are a liability when they're out in front of a customer?
I mean, that's a great question. I only can think of more questions from that. Like, because my immediate thought is like, what do you do with the person who, so there's 2 layers of founder in this scenario, or more, obviously, but at the very minimum, we've got the person who is sort of aware that they need help, that they need maybe to listen to some resources. They need to go read a bunch of sales books. They need to find a fractional co-founder. It doesn't exist yet, right? But maybe it does somewhere.
But then there's there
Did you get the domain?
Yeah,
yeah.
But then there's the other person who doesn't know they need those things at all, right? They might be having some success, but then they're not seeing the gap that the rest of us might look at and go, "Oof, you need either to learn more about this and more of how you operate, or find a partner who can do that with you." I mean, I don't know how you. Is that person hopeless? I don't think so. But
can you learn sales? Like, can you learn to be a good salesperson?
Mostly. I mean, there's going to be some people. Yeah, I think you can to some extent, right? But you can't. There are some people who it's the 0 to 1. They have too far to go. It's just not going to happen. But
so
Chris,
I'll tell you what the data says is that earlier in your career, and this is not necessarily founders, but this is it for executives. EQ versus IQ represents 50% of your success.
Right.
When you get to a senior level, EQ represents 80% of your success. And so the point there is that EQ turns out to be very important. And I think this is what we're driving at is that modern salesperson is somebody that has a high EQ, can ask the right questions, be in the room. Now, there are obviously people that are born with higher ceilings and maybe higher up that ladder. However, EQ is 100% skill driven. It is not innate. It is not something you're born with. You develop the ability to ask questions. You develop the ability to shut the hell up and listen, like I'm not doing right now. You develop the ability to try to sit with empathy around somebody's problem. Right. So it is very, very painful because it will take you down to the very, very studs of your personality, but you absolutely can develop in the skills that make up this thing we call EQ.
I'll raise my hand and say, that I know it's possible because I've done it to some extent. Now, I already possessed some natural ability to be personable and to talk with people and to be curious. But if you look at where I am now versus 18 years ago doing these same types of calls, it's night and day. So if I can learn it, other people can learn it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think your role in sales evolves as, like, my partner's been he started his business 30 years ago and, they continue to be successful and, trudge along and everything. But his role as president now, he has a quota, right? He has a number, but his role is to be at the head of the ship, sort of plowing forward and investigating new opportunities in terms of the development of their services and yada, 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 right? So while he has a number, he's now starting to be an explorer as opposed, and, finding the new way for the business as opposed to just charging forward in the same pathways. So, when you get over that sort of hump, I think that's when your focus as the founder-led salesperson starts to change. Is that true?
Yeah, right. I think so. Definitely. It's definitely true. I mean, and I don't know if this builds on that exactly, but I want to always be growing, and that is in every aspect. So even if I went out tomorrow and hired a sales team, I don't think that would mean that my ability to shape my selling skills should go away. And then you have to sell different things, right? So if you have a team, well, you have to sell to them too, really. You have to bring them along. And if you can't convince them of your vision, then they're not going to be able to do it for other people either.
And if you're looking for money, you have to sell to your investors, and everything is a sales role. Chris, you're a CEO right now. How much of the work you do is selling? And I don't necessarily mean just to customers.
It's 100% of my time. It's if I described the skills, and this is the thing, we have a lot of early stage founders. This is kind of who we designed the podcast for, is early stage founders. Yeah. And if I describe the role that you play every day, Joel, or the role that I play every day, or Stephanie, it is very rare, although I'm doing a lot this week, of sitting down and staring at a spreadsheet for a week, right? It's very rare that I'm doing deep work. My job is to paint a picture, to go convince people to work hard, to convince people to invest in our company, to convince people that we have the right vision. It is to show up and listen to feedback with genuine humility and empathy. That's called being a salesperson. The same set of skills.
Right.
If you want to be a good leader and CEO, being a good leader and CEO is about developing the exact same toolkit that you need to be a good salesperson. Oh, by the way, if you think you're kind of cocky and you don't listen all that much, go talk to some customers. It's going to humble you. You will get to a place where you're going to start to listen and ask better questions. You will start to show up with more empathy. It is. I think it's such an important point. In my opinion, the modern CEO, all you do is sell all day, every day, with the idea that selling is about teaching and empathy and about listening and all those other components.
So where do I get help if asking for a friend, if I'm really uncomfortable with selling and I don't do a very good job of it?
Go to fractionalcofounder.com. I'm just kidding. I didn't actually get the domain. I didn't actually spin the company.
Yeah, anyway.
Come on. Yeah.
You just didn't have your sheet log.
Yeah, exactly. My AI is running slow this morning. So.
Joel, what do we do? What do we do if we're a founder that just, they're listening to our episode for some reason and they somehow have gotten this far into it and they're like, oh yeah, I get it. I am a founder. I'm early stage. I need to sell, but I don't know how. And this is really uncomfortable for me. What do I do?
I mean, my first recommendation is going to be reading Seth Godin's This Is Marketing. I don't know if you all read that, because he does, it's, to me, even though it's kind of short, doesn't dive into every concept as much as some of the other books he's written. It coalesces it all into something that I think is a manifesto of what modern sales and what modern marketing is. And so if you read that, it's going to bring up a bunch of questions, I think, of how that applies to whatever industry or whatever sales problem or marketing problem or empathy problem you're trying to solve to push yourself forward. And once you have some great questions, then you can go find places to answer them. But that's what I would point someone to first and foremost. Just because you can read it, you can sit down and comprehend it on your own, and then you get to decide what to do with it next.
Chris, what would you do? What would you advise a founder in that position to do?
It's funny because so many of our episodes come back to this. Invest in self-awareness. And so self-awareness means do some actual personality assessments and sit down. Yeah. Don't look at, when you do Strengths Finder, don't look at your strengths. Google dark side of having these strengths. And that's where the good shit comes out. It's not about, right. Oh, I'm so awesome. I have woo, which is winning others over. And then you Google the dark side of woo in your Strengths Finder. You're like, oh, wow, that doesn't make me feel very good. But it's about developing that level of self-awareness. Here's the thing that I realize: most founders can talk pretty eloquently about their product. They can talk about what it is and what it does and what the benefits are. The problem is that they do the show up and throw up thing. Then, so the other component I would really, really, really highly recommend is any sort of skills, and you can find stuff on YouTube around the power of asking good questions. Yeah. And try to follow the 5-question rule, which is before you say anything, you always ask 5 questions. And you could do it with your family, you could do it with your friends, and people will actually like you more. My students really wish I would ask more questions to them as opposed to just showing up and yelling at them.
But this isn't, that's an ego play for you anyway, right?
100%.
the professor.
I was going to say for this client that we helped with sales enablement, I listened to like 30 hours of their incoming inquiry calls. And we made like a grader with AI that was fun. But the number one thing that blew me away was how many closed ended questions they ask when they get these calls in. And it's just like, this is like one of the most basic things. Ask them a question that they have to come up with a real answer. They're going to give you information. If you ask a yes, no question only, you only know what you asked. There's only one toggle. It's insane to me. So yes, question asking is so huge.
Listen, I've been through all of the sales. I'm old. I went through the Xerox sales training. I have been through so many different sales trainings, and everybody who's new to business wants to have a script, right? They want to be like, okay, I'm going to show up to the sales call. I'm like, let me make this easy on you. The best thing you can do in a sales call is to show up and say, tell me what's going on. That's all you need to say. And the first thing they're going to start talking about is the problems that they're having and, setting the context, and you let them talk until it's awkward, until they have nothing more to say. And here you've got all the information that you need about how to carry on the conversation. My sales calls go like, they talk. And then finally I will drop the mic, and then they're just like, and that's so easy, right? It's so much easier than having to have a prepared conversation and a prepared script. And I wish more founders understood just how much they could stay silent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we emotionally ready?
Classes. I'm not kidding. Improv classes.
Oh, totally.
Improv classes force you to pay attention to other people.
Right. You're right. I wrote a blog about it because it occurred to me as I interact just with people in general, you have the yes-anders, right? The improv idea, or yes, but. Don't be a yes, butter. I don't know. That's not great, but don't.
Stephanie is always
people
about the yes, but. She is always about that.
I mean, it can drive a conversation forward, but it's more powerful often to say yes, and what about this? It can even be the same content, but it's the positioning of how you bring that conversation so that you're building towards something.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, are we emotionally ready for the speed round? Yes, take some, sure. Get your root chakra aligned and ready to go. All right, quick answers. You know how it goes. There are no right or wrong answers unless I think they're wrong. So let's dive into it. Joel, you're on the hot seat. The pipeline is fiction. Do you agree?
No. Pipelines aren't fiction. Yeah. I mean, you have to have some understanding of where, now maybe you could be obsessed with it or something, or focus too much on it, but like you better know where people are in a stage of becoming a client.
All right. Defend the founder tax in 15 seconds.
Can you define founder tax so I know exactly what? I mean, I have an idea, but
I think it's the concept that that everything that we've kind of been talking about already, right. That the founder has to be the salesperson. And
yeah, okay, yeah. So that's where I would go. I would say that you bring authority, credibility, and experience that someone on the sales team is going to have a hard time bringing. You should be involved at some level with sales in your organization.
Okay, pick one to cut: discounts, demos, or pipeline reviews.
Discounts.
That was the right answer. Do you lose a deal on price or win on a discount?
Lose on price every day. I'm not discounting my work. I'm valuable.
Customer only buys from the founder. Do you ship the AE anyway?
Sometimes.
I don't love these questions, to be honest. We have to give some feedback to Anthony.
I was going to say, these were the worst AI-driven.
These are the worst.
Really.
Joel, on behalf of our institution, we apologize for putting you through that. That
The very
was
shitty
particularly
questions. Yeah.
traumatic.
His AI listens to our transcripts. So, hey, AI, do a better job.
Cut it out. Cut it
Make
out.
better speed round questions.
Make better questions for us. Okay. All right. We have a couple of deep dive resources, and we did mention a couple of other good ones in the show as well. From Impossible to Inevitable by Aaron Ross and Jason Lumpkin, Founding Sales by Pete Kazanji, and we also talked about This is Marketing by Seth Godin. All right, Joel, great conversation. Where can people learn more about you? Where can they find you? Where can they connect with you?
Yeah, head over to theskyfloor.com and read a bunch of our blogs, subscribe to our email newsletter. You'll hear when we're working on something new. And if you want to start a conversation, it's not a sales call. I would love to talk with you and find out how I can help you get to that next outcome or goal that you have.
Awesome. So good. What's your name, Chris? It's early for me, okay? Do you want to close us off?
I'm just going to read directly from the script. Please stop talking crap about my AI, Anthony's AI. It is awesome. It is perfect. Just kidding. No, we are genuinely thank you so much for joining us, Joel. Really, really good conversation. And we got to a place that I think was interesting and not where I thought we could too. But that's what kind of the fun thing about sitting around talking to founders. So we do this a bunch. We really enjoy it. We do it because we want to help you, the founder. We're incredibly humbled and inspired by the work you do. We genuinely believe that you're the value creators in our society. And we're very, very grateful and humbled to be here along the road. If you like us, give us a little thumbs up, give us a little like, maybe a subscribe. We'd like that.
Not based on today's speed round questions, though. Don't take those into account.
Yeah, do not judge us, not the AI.
That's right.
Judge us. So, but not business speed round questions. But that will do it for us. We are going to be back next week. We've got some announcements to make about some format changes, some timing changes, stuff like that.
Exciting.
So make sure you tune in next week. Joel, thanks again. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's almost as if you have no business training at all.